pass to Johnson. Johnson still going. Dummies again. Johnson into the white of Brown goes in to score.
Ali Salvia down the touchline. Oh, this is unbelievable. They're gonna win it. Oh, what scenes here, what scenes. LeBron James, a shot at history. LeBron stands alone. The NBA's all-time scoring record now belongs to LeBron James.
How good, we're on once again. Surly Talk Sports in the saddle on your Thursday morning. Huge weekend ahead, strapped in, ready to rip in for the first ever STS Golf Day, Saturday Arvo at Waitemata Golf Course. This is going to be absolute scene. Some big names in the playing field, 72 great New Zealanders all assembling for an Arvo of 9-hole Ambrose Golf. To be fair, it's more about the booze and having a good time. The golf is almost secondary, a great excuse to collect together some great Surly listeners and just general roosters and have a bloody good time in the Arvo. Of course, it's sold out in under an hour and a half, so stay tuned for a second edition, which will drop next year. She's going to be an annual event, and I reckon off the back of this, demand is going to be even higher for that one. It's going to become a don't miss day on your calendar, that is for sure. But can't wait for it. Better Bear and Zephyr on the tins. TAB is your headline sponsor. We've got the Warriors sponsoring a hole, which is elite as well. Some crazy prizes. Red Bull, Huffer, they're all in there too. Longest drive, you walk home with a signed 2025 Warriors jersey, which is pretty much priceless, especially when we go on to win the comp. If you win the playoff hole, you're walking away with $500 TAB bonus cash. Closest to the pin becomes closest to the tin, with Better Bear providing one of their grouse golf bags. If you haven't seen those, shit, are they a collector's item? So it's going to be all go. Can't wait to sink the teeth into it. Saturday Arvo, stay tuned to my socials. I'll be doing all sorts of content around it too. And if you're one of the lucky 72, strap in. We are absolutely on. Weather looking like it's going to clear for Saturday too. Next couple of days are meant to be a bit rough, so fingers crossed the weather gods deliver, and it could be one of the famous days, that is for sure. Mentioned them before, but TAB, shout out to them, always getting around the pod, headline sponsor of the Golf Day, and we really appreciate their support. So if you are having a Carmichael punt this weekend, make sure you do it through the TAB. Gamble responsibly, but as always, there's promos, boosted options, power plays galore. Head along to the Punters Lounge, check out all they've got to offer, and have yourself a cheeky go on the tea and biscuits. And shout out to Better Bear as well, official beer of the Surly Talk Sports pod. Great for the rig, zero carbs, ultimate tin for summer really. So head along to your local bottle store and get yourself a box of Better Beer. You won't regret it. Plenty to get through today. Of course, All Blacks versus Ireland. A shit ton of talking points from that. The final weekend of Rugby League last weekend, so we'll tick those boxes, as well as some NRL news and this kickoff controversy, which appears to be dead and buried now, which is great news for Rugby League purists. Got the weekly wrap, the Q&A, your usual punting segments. So without further ado, let's get into how bloody good. God's game, she's over and out for season 2024, officially signed out on the weekend with the Pacific Championships wrapping up. Well done to the Jillaroos, well done to Aussie, as much as that hurts to say, and of course, well done to the Kiwis too, securing that we are still in that top tier for next year, but we'll touch on that shortly. Firstly, a bit of NRL news to tuck into, and shit, did the internet break on Tuesday once the Mole leaked that the NRL were possibly looking at tinkering the kickoff rule, which has since been shut down, thank God. The Rugby League gods have said, no, we're not having any of this shit. But basically, if you missed it, the Mole, of course, a reporter for Wide World of Sports in Australia, he reported the NRL was set to radically change the kickoff rules for 2025, trying to minimise head injuries and collisions from players as they return those kickoffs. And they were going to change it so that any team that starts to play with a kickoff that goes beyond the 20-metre line on the full would straight away concede a 7-tackle set. And basically what they're trying to do here is force a short kickoff. It's turning into rugby, and I would have been interested to see how this played out. For me, teams had three options. The first one, They bring back the toe hack. You keep it low, the old worm burner, Mal Meninga type of stuff. Really tough for receiving teams to contain, especially on a cold, wet night at Mount Smart. Could easily force a handling error, so I could have seen teams roll to that. The second option would have been, you just say, fuck it. You concede the 7-tackle set, and I reckon Origin games like that, this is exactly what you do. You just send it. We still get the back fence, that massive first collision, and you just back yourself to defend a 7-tackle set with 100 metres to play around with. I reckon a few teams still would have done that. And then the third one, which I think is most likely, is teams would have just gone short all the time. They would have used guys like Zaki Lomax, your aerial threats, Xavier Coates, Daniel Tupou, the big bodies, the high flyers, to get up and try bat the ball back like we see on those goal line short dropouts now. And I would have been really interested to see if teams receiving the kickoff then turned to some rugby tactics. We got some lifts and things like that to try and ensure they didn't concede the kickoff, because that would be massive for momentum and field position. You're happy in a way to lose a short dropout because you've still got 80 to 90 metres to defend before the opposition team gets to your try line. On a kickoff, you could be conceding the ball 30 to 40 metres out from your own try line. That could lead to chaos, and it would be a massive momentum swinger, so I reckon teams would have got creative around how they receive this. Getting the old Kieran Reid in to try and teach the boys how to line out lift would have been an absolute giggle as well. Great to see that they've decided not to go this way. For me, the kickoff, the opening kickoff in particular, is a massive entertainment factor, a real fan favourite. When you think of the biggest games on the calendar, your State of Origins, your internationals, finals footy, the kickoff for me, that first one, is almost the highlight. The amount of energy and excitement around that first carry and the collision is huge. And our game just wouldn't be the same without it. When you think of those big carries, Spencer Leniu and co, Bunty Afoa, Adam Fanua-Blake, Nathan Brown, the big boppers just steaming in off the back fence. That's what puts bums on seats, and the crowd, we fucking love it. And yes, I get that there have been multiple concussions, in particular this season, as the result of the kickoff, and I think the NFL have set the precedent here. They changed their kickoff rules this year in order to close the gap between the receiving and the defending team, to try and minimize the amount of force and momentum that the players have when they collide. And saying that, when you look back to the 2023 season, only 3.4% of concussions were following a kickoff. 96.6% of concussions that occurred happened in other stages throughout the game. This year, I do think it was up around 10%, I believe I saw NRL physio say, and there were some nasty ones that happened. Straight away, you think of that Moses Sully knocked out by Jared Waerea-Hargreaves in the Roosters game, but that was his own teammate's fault, not actually the impact of the collision. His own teammate bumped him into a really dangerous position as they were trying to get multiple players into the tackle. Then we had Nelson Asafa-Solomona, of course, knock out Lindsay Collins in the finals. So there were some bad examples, and I'm all for player welfare. I don't want to see guys knocked out, and I don't think any genuine rugby league fan does as well. But when you factor in 3.4%, it's not a huge contributing factor to HIAs in our game. Plus, you then throw in the comments of the players, and it was great to see guys like Spencer Leniu, Nelson Asafa-Solomona straight away coming to the defence of the kickoff, saying that's what we get paid to do, something they take massive pride in. I do think, though, the NRL here is laying the surface for this to potentially be changed in the coming years. This hasn't happened for no reason, and I think they are planting the seed for years to come. Hopefully that is not the case. I want to see the kickoff remain in our game. The uproar from the fans over the last 48 hours has been massive too, so hopefully they don't tinker with it. Part of me does think, though, they're just planting that seed for this to be changed or tinkered with slightly in the years to come. For now, though, we get to keep back fence returns for 2025, and I absolutely love that. In terms of your player news, Broncos and Chooks trying to find a way to sign Benny Hunt, who continues to be the talk of the town, that main get that teams are trying to lock down for 2025 and beyond. Broncos, apparently they only have $500K left in their salary cap, so they would have to look to move someone on with an early release. The Roosters, they want to catch up with Hunty this week to see if he's keen, and no doubt Nick Politis will be doing everything he can to get him there. He'd be a handy pickup for them. Sammy Walker out next year, plus he can play 9 as well, help to try cover some of those Brandon Smith minutes with him out with an ACL. Actually, on Brandon Smith, interesting to see the Chooks. They're potentially not keen to lock him down further too, and the Cheese has said himself he wants to stay in Sydney, wants to remain at the Roosters as well. But surely, if the offers weren't coming thick and fast, the old Waiheke Wombat would have to consider a potential move back to Mount Smart. If the Warriors were interested, I reckon that would be a great pickup for us. But watch this space on Ben Hunt. I believe the Dogs and Dolphins are still in the bidding as well. Leo Thompson, he wants to have a deal locked in for 2026 before the 2025 season kicks off. The Dogs and Raiders, I believe they're still the main front runners to land him. Shit, seeing him alongside the Fish, ripping out the haka for the Kiwis, that for me right there was a rugby league wet dream, and I'm sure any other Warriors fan feels the same. I'd give my left nut Buck Shelford styles to see those two lace up at Mount Smart together week in and week out. Surely we're at least sniffing around his agent just to see what type of ballpark money he is after. Of course, his twin signed to Newcastle next year just on a development deal though. Why don't we bring the both of them back? I reckon that would be an astute pickup for the Waz. Terrell May, speaking of props, he's met with the Dragons and Dogs as well, and he's due to meet with the West Tigers, so I believe it's a 3-team market for him at the moment. And then finally, just on the Warriors, some preseason chat. Great to see the lads, the big dogs, back on deck, back at training. Your Walks, your Rocco Berries, old Bootlace Berry, Freddie Lussick, Wade Egan Park, Tohu Harris, good to see him healthy, lacing up early doors in November. It's been a while since he's done that. Have to say the kit looks sharp as well. I think it goes on sale tonight, so I'll be copping a purchase, getting the old credit card out for sure. The boys banged out a Bronco the other day though. I believe Freddie Lussick, top of the pops yet again, 2 years straight. Eddie Iramia though, rumours he gave him a good push too, and he's an interesting prospect, this kid, getting big raps early doors at preseason training. They're loving the effort he's putting in, trains hard, and man is he versatile. When you look at his performances for the New South Wales Cup side last year, he played prop, second row, centre and off the interchange bench. That is crazy versatility. I believe he was still eligible for SG Ball as well, so he's so young. It's rare to see a player cover those positions and do so well. He could be a handy prospect to watch. Another of these young bucks with massive potential that hopefully all set for huge seasons in 2025. But onto the Pacific Champs we go. Let's wrap up the final weekend of Rugby League on our TV screens. Like I said, Jillaroos, way too good for the Kiwi Ferns, unfortunately. 24 points to 4 with our try coming right on full time. Looked like we dropped it over the line as well, so perhaps that was a bit of a charity meaty right there. It was actually the first try the Jillaroos conceded the whole tournament as well. Our girls ripped in, they gave it everything, but in the end we were just outclassed by a bloody polished Aussie side. Too many weapons in the duffel bag for us to contain, and they were deserved winners 100%. The final, Kangaroos 20, Tonga 14. Again, though, the talk of this game has to be the Tonga crowd who won back-to-back weekends. The Red Sea, they dominated at Mount Smart and then they dominated at Combank as well. What a fan base they have. The passion, the singing, they were decked out head to toe in red. People dressed up in costumes. It's so good to see. For a small nation, shit do they get out in massive numbers and support. They're so vocal and you could just hear it through your TV screens. Every time Tonga had a big carry, scored a try, the national anthem, the Sivatau, it was all go, which is what International League is all about, and it has me licking my lips for next year's competition where Tonga, Samoa and the Kiwis will go at it. The crowd got treated to a hissing start too. Tonga scoring first, Katoa saluting for that first try scorer bet in back-to-back weeks off the back of some elite ball playing from the other Katoa, the young lad in the halves as well. Nice little double dummy drop off into a nice skip out ball. Shit, is he a rugby league talent. Still only 20 years old and guiding this side around. He's an absolute weapon, and the Dolphins have got themselves a great bye right there. The Tongans, they gave it a red-hot crack throughout this game, but ultimately, they just couldn't go with the ruse. The Aussies' superior fitness shone through, and there were moments there where I thought they were going to be in trouble. Tonga had all the momentum, but they were just able to get themselves out of the grind and flip the pressure as a result of it. There were also moments too, and full credit to Tonga, where I thought they were going to get blown out. When Turbo scored early in that second half, I thought that was it. Cue in the rack, Tonga with their heads down, and Aussie would pile on a bit of a score. But full credit to this Tongan side, and perhaps that's a change of mindset. They just refused to roll over and made a real game of this one. I thought the Tonga pack were great again. AFB, Taumalolo, Hamole Olakauatu, and then arguably MVP of this game for me, Ali Katoa. What a year he's had. A try, 170 run meters, 86 PCMs, 30 tackles, was elite for the Storm, and he's carried that form into this competition as well. Him and AFB, if Tonga had won this comp, they would have been right in the running for your golden boot. AFB again, 67 minutes, 217 run meters, 92 PCMs. That is fucked. And then 6 tackle breaks on top of that. Increased workload, but that didn't worry the big fella. And Sharks fans, they must be so fizzed watching him bang out these performances for Tonga in the backs. I thought Lehigh Hopewadi was really good yet again. Brings up that question as well. Tommy Turbo ripped up for Aussie in the centres. We'll touch on him shortly, but should Manly look at doing something like that? Turbo at 3, Lehigh at the back. He's more than capable, elite on defence too, and that would take some of the wear off Turbo's rig as well, allow him to punch out a full season. I thought Tolu Kola was great. Crazy to think this was his first run in the Pacific Champs too, and perhaps Tonga missed a bit of a beat there. I believe Moses Sully was a late scratching due to injury, but Tolu Kola is a weapon, especially with nut in hand. He's really strong defensively too, quick as fuck, and I thought he was really good in this game. Troubled the Aussies on multiple occasions. For Australia, I thought Tommy Dearden was unreal, deserved man of the match, had 3 line breaks, 3 try assists, so he set up 3 of Aussie's 4 meaties. 146 run meters from 15 runs. That dummy he throws, that's elite. It's got to be one of the best dummies in the comp. Him and Tyron Wishart probably battle it out for that role, but I reckon Dearden had a heck of a competition, and for me, he's probably your golden boot winner. I thought Tommy Turbo was great as well. A few opportunities where he should have passed. Ended up scoring 2 tries, which was great for my multi. I had him to bang out 2 or more, but I think he did butcher a couple at the same time. Like I referenced before, whenever he wears the centre jersey, he roams so much that he's almost like another fullback, and it allows him not to have to do those back fence kick return carries as well, which can be so damaging on your rig. So no doubt Anthony Seibold, he'll be tossing up that idea over the off-season. Aussie as well, their pack, while they may have got dominated in the meters, they had 3 forwards with 50 plus tackles. The Tongan forward pack certainly made them get through their work. Harry Grant punched out 53, the Wizard. Hudson Young had 51 as a second rower, which is huge. And then Isaiah Yeo had 50 for just 1 miss. That bloke is a freak. Overall though, Aussie just too good, 1-17. Tonga valiant. They can be proud with their effort, and for not rolling over, made for an exciting finish, but just not enough to get them over the line. What a campaign it has been for them though, to beat the Kiwis and then to come within 6 of beating the Roos. That's a massive dub for them. I do see Christian Wolf, of course, head coach of the Dolphins next year, so there's potential that he won't be at the helm for them in 2025. Hopefully he can stay on. I reckon he could balance both. He's been their head coach since 2014, which you almost forget, so I'd love to see him find a way to be able to stay on. I think he's that coach that they need. They respect him. He's got a smart footy brain, and he seems to be able to get the best out of these lads. Has a good relationship with AFB, Taumalolo, and the leaders too. So hopefully no big changes there for the Kiwis. 54 points to 12, 10 tries to 2. We pumped PNG after a pretty scary first half, to be fair. Wasn't sold on how we were playing early doors. Did have me a little bit worried, but then second half, we just blew them out, and some massive performances as well from some key individuals. The first one, Casey McLean, 4 tries of the best, scored with his first touch in international footy, and I'm stoked he got his debut here. Will Warbrick a late scratching due to an injury, and this is a double-pronged box tick for us. We get to bloody young talent who show that he is well and truly made for the international stage, but the biggest one for me is now he can't play for New South Wales, of course. Born and raised in Sydney, he's going to be a gun. This keeps him out of Origin in the years to come, which is a massive win for New Zealand Rugby League. Him and his twin brother, they're going to be hissing combo for the Panthers for a very long time. That factory continues to produce, so the fact that he's locked up also probably suggests his brother will follow in the same suit, which is great signs for us. He had 4 tries, 173 run meters, 3 line breaks, a try assist on that break he had to set up chance for the meaty too. There was nothing going there, one-on-one, just a nice little in and away, fend on the chest with about 2 meters from the sideline. That was classy shit right there. Keanu Keaney, that bloke is a freak too, and when you look at McLean and Keaney, well, I think McLean's 18 or 19, Keaney 20 or 21. Geez, do we have some young talent in that back line. Keaney, though, finished with 302 run meters, which is crazy. 2 line breaks, a line break assist, 5 tackle breaks. He was by far and away our best player for the Kiwis throughout this Pacific Championship. The fact that this was his first series as well, fuck, is he a great rugby league footballer. Then on the other end of the age scale, I thought SJ was elite, in particular in the second half. 5 try assists, he was toying with the PNG defence down the stretch. Had that doozy for Casey McLean where he just dummied the drop under, then the long ball. Then he had another beautiful one just drifting across the face. Double dummy on the drop under, and then a short ball. Then that nudge for Jermaine Isaac, that was perfectly weighted too. What a way to finish. The kid can still play. Basically, he was just short of an anytime meaty for the perfect swan song. I jumped on him at halftime live for $6, and I thought there were moments there where he looked likely to cash, but it just wasn't to be. Shout out to the kid who got his jersey too. Post game, incredibly well played right there. Wore a Waz hat into a Kiwis jersey, so he pulled on both heartstrings. That would look unreal in your man cave, and I do have to wonder if SJ, perhaps he wakes up the next day and regrets that a little. Of course, he's probably got his debut jersey for the Kiwis, debut for the Waz, his final jersey for the Waz. To have his final jersey for the Kiwis there, that would have completed the collection. I'm not so sure. He's such a great bloke that he probably doesn't, but at the same time, you have to wonder if part of him thinks, fuck, maybe I shouldn't have given my jersey to that little kid. At the same time, though, that young buck was frothing, and that could ignite him. How good would that be? A true rugby league fairy tale. That kid goes on to play for the Kiwis off the back of being inspired by one of the greats in SJ. Watch this space. Maybe in 15 years' time, we'll get dished up. That it seems to happen all sorts these days. You see young fellas making their debuts, and they post a photo up of them with their idols who they end up playing for the same team. So, hey, maybe this could be another one of those occasions, but not the game we wanted to be in. A good result though, closer than expected first half, blew them out in the second, sets up a barnstormer next year. Tonga, Samoa, New Zealand, Aussie and England, they'll play the Rugby League Ashes, so it's us three battling it out in the Pacific Championship. The crowds are going to be insane. Surely all 3 of those games are played over here in NZ. Mount Smart will be absolute scenes. And hopefully we can get redemption on the Tongans too with a healthier squad. And I do feel a little sorry for Stacey Jones. So many people weighing in on him. But when you look at the outs, even if you just chuck a Jerome Hughes in there at 7, play SJ at 6, that would have changed the whole shape of this team. Then you got guys like Britain Nikora, Ronaldo Mulatalo, who's hopefully a future Warrior if the rumours there are true. Although the Mole, I think he was the one to dish that up again. So take that with a grain of salt. But we're missing so many first-class players. So you do have to feel a little sorry for Stacey, and I think as much as that Tonga loss hurt the most, just staying up in the Pacific Championship, we'll take that, flush it, and on we march to next year. So Rugby League is over for the year. No doubt plenty of news, signing news in particular, still to come though, that will still feature in the pod. But the next time it's on our screens, we will be in Vegas, fizzing for that. A 5-day bender sandwiched in with some rugby league. Going to be involved in a pretty sick giveaway around that too coming up. A nice little hint there. You want to be getting in the draw for that one. So stay tuned to social social media over the coming weeks and months if you want to get bums on seats and get on that plane with your mates early to sink some piss and get behind the wires. That is going to be once in a lifetime type of stuff right there. Onto your rugby union, All Blacks get the dub. The Southern Hemisphere dominate those losers from the North. It was really only Tonga that let us down, losing to Romania. They're a shit show at the moment, but of course the All Blacks 15, Aussie, South Africa, Argentina, all getting the job done over our Northern Hemisphere counterparts. All Blacks 23-13 win over Ireland, and a heck of a dub that was. Ireland go into the game ranked number 1, us number 3, but we flipped those rankings on their head with a great result. Before we get into the game, shout out to Ireland for adding even more fuel to the fire, messing up our national anthem, only playing the first part, just to pour even more gasoline on a fire that didn't need any more than it already had. I'm not too sure if it was done intentionally or if the fact they just played the instrumental version and the second rendition would have sounded exactly the same as the first. You could give them the benefit of the doubt on that, but I'm not willing to do so. So a big up yours truly to them. Now let's start with the ref, Nick Berry. I thought he had an absolute shocker, a real Barry Crocker in that first half in particular. What Ireland got away with at ruck time, that was laughable. They were flying in the side, they weren't rolling away, they were cheating like buggery and getting away with it, which really messed with our ball. It was literally one of the most shocking displays of refereeing at ruck time that I've seen. He kept saying that they were making an attempt to roll away. First of all, they were in a poor position because they were getting dominated at the collision. Our ball runners were running over the top of them and then they were just lying there. And second of all, it was clearly a tactic of theirs to slow things down. They hadn't played since July. They wanted to mess with our flow. And they were literally coming in the side like I've almost never seen before. It was absolutely a joke. Second half, he got a little bit better. We'll touch on that shortly. What it did do, though, is it really messed up our ball, and I felt sorry for Cortez Ratama because it improved massively in the second half due to the officiating, due to the All Blacks probably talking about it and addressing it at halftime. But, man, it did him no favours, that's for sure. Then we had that uncontested line-out call for given not straight. At the time, I was blowing up about this. Apparently, though, learnt post-game that they're not playing this rule on the Northern Hemisphere tour, which is bloody confusing because I was losing my rag. Not straight. Ireland didn't contest. We're about 5 metres out from their line, and I thought that was a massive cock-up from Nick Berry, so I'm willing to cop that one on the chin. At the same time, though, World Rugby, can we just set in stone the rules and play them for every bloody game to avoid occasions like this? Then we had the kick penalties for obstruction, one leading to a try off a kickoff where I don't think the Irish chaser was within 3 or 4 metres of the ball, so how he was obstructed and that had a big effect on the outcome is beyond me. Ireland then kicked a touch and they score a few phases later, and at the moment this rule for me is an absolute lottery, and we're just going to have guys running into bodies now as they're chasing kicks and milking it, which makes the box kick a great option and slows the game down again. And I thought we were bringing in all these new rules to try and speed things up and discourage teams from just turning to slow box kicks at ruck time. They do that human caterpillar or centipede, and then they send it up into the air, kills about 15 to 20 seconds, and now wingers will just run into bodies on their way back to make it look like they were obstructed. This is not what we want in our game. Guys are too scared to get up and compete at the risk of getting in the way of someone, and then they cost their team a penalty, which can be a game changer and a momentum killer. I reckon they really need to dive into this before it gets out of hand. And speaking of speeding up the game, I thought we had a shot clock at scrum and line-out, and perhaps we're not playing that throughout this competition as well, which again would be great to get some clarity on. I thought it was 30 seconds though for both, and constantly the Irish just took their time. Berry didn't call them up on it at all. This game at times was so slow. I would have loved to have seen him maybe penalise, free kick them for just time wasting and trying to kill our momentum at key periods. I do think Berry though did have a better second half, which did increase an increased speed and play, and ironically, no coincidence for me, that is when the All Blacks really got into their work. Just wanted to address those though, because that first half, I was copping DMs galore from frustrated All Black and rugby fans in general. And at halftime, I thought we're going to lose this game off the back of the officiating, and I was stoked to see it did change for the second stanza. Of course, the All Blacks onto the game. I thought we played some great code. We looked calm, we looked composed, we looked in control, we struck when we needed to, scored points and came away with 3s or 5s whenever given opportunities. For me, this was our most balanced performance, and I also reckon it was the first time where I sat back and thought R23 here is really delivering. I thought we got the full 80-minute performance from the boys. It was great to see us bust it out in Dublin too. We only scored the 1 try, but that was an absolute beauty to Will Jordan. We breached the Irish defence on both sides. The skill set from the whole team was elite to go edge to edge. High numbers, low numbers, all involved. Great execution from the whole 15 on the paddock. I thought that was a great meaty. I thought our discipline was huge in this game as well. We were aggressive while still being composed. I thought Scott Barrett led that perfectly too. There was a moment early doors. The Irish, they must have ruffled up D-Mac or said something to him. Scotty Barrett certainly took exception to it. He flew in, collared his opposite lock, who was a bit of a cheeky basket all game too. He was constantly G'ing up the crowd, which I actually really do like. Adds to that entertainment value too. I thought Scotty was going to lose his rag there, because in the past, he's been known to cop a yellow or a red for just going over the line slightly. But I thought he tailed it back perfectly, kept a lid on it, and really controlled it. And I thought the All Blacks' discipline was huge. We won the penalty count 13-5. That's poor from the Irish, but really good from us. And our discipline has been our Achilles heel in games gone past. So a great little switch there. I thought overall as well, we played really smart footy. We kicked when we needed to. We exited well. We held on to the ball in attacking zones. We didn't dish up many errors. Our set piece was great. I just reckon we ticked multiple boxes. Add to that the impact of Paddy T, Offa, Cammy Roygaard, who I thought was huge with his boot, his box kicking, and just ball playing in general. His bigger body allowed us to control the ball a little bit better and clean up the service at the back of the ruck. Really pleasing display, and I left this one feeling bloody good about where the All Blacks are positioned now, which is a nice change after being a little bit worried off the back of the Rugby Championship. In terms of your standouts in the forwards, Ardie Savea, massive again, and I feel sorry for the bloke, because we now expect an 8 from 10 out of him every week, and when he dishes it up, people are almost critical of his performance, but I thought he was huge. His work rate was massive. That turnover he got late in the game, that gave me shades of the 2023 World Cup quarterfinal as well. So great to see Ardie ripping in again. I thought Wallace Atiti was exceptional yet again. Another massive performance from him. Ball in hand, really strong. Line break, strong skill set, work rate, great defensively. Had a few good steals at ruck time. Really good at line out as well. Just love watching him play. Asafo Aumua, he was elite, and this is back-to-back weeks now where he's played massive minutes, 79 in this one, and I think he was in the 70s the week before as well. And the most pleasing thing for me, which this has shown over the last 2 weeks, there's no longer a massive drop-off between him and Cody Taylor. For so long, I thought we were going to miss Samisoni Taukei'aho massively, because it was Cody, then Taukei'aho, then a bit of a drop-off to Aumua just because of his work, mainly at set piece around line-out time, but he was 89% here compared to the Irish hooker who was at 70%. That's a massive win for us. And then you add in Aumua's ability around the paddock. He's a block-busting ball runner. He rattles rigs on defence too. He was putting in some massive shots. He's so dangerous out in those wide channels too. I reckon he was unreal here, and that really fills me with confidence that if Cody Taylor is to miss longer periods of time in the future, and if Taukei'aho is still a while away from returning, because to be fair, we haven't heard much about his injury at all. He's almost the forgotten man in New Zealand rugby at the moment. Now we know Aumua is ready to go, so that is great signs for the All Blacks. I thought Paddy T was unreal off the bench, like I referenced before as well. His physicality, he's had a massive year this year, and that continues. And then I thought Sam Cane was unreal too. This bloke is a workhorse. It could have been his last game potentially for the All Blacks as well. Out this week with HIA protocol, put in a massive massive shift, loves playing against Ireland. He was literally almost in every ruck. And I reckon we are going to miss him despite many people still being critical of his performance. Body on the line, he was literally bleeding from the head. He loves that black jersey and a great New Zealander. I was really stoked to see as well the end of the game there, that trio that we finished with. Samipeni Finau, Ardie Savea at 7, Wallace at 8. I reckon that's what we go with this week, but more on that shortly. In terms of your standouts in the back line, D-Mac, pretty sure he picked up man of the match. For me, it was between him and Asafo Aumua, but I thought Damien was great here. And it's funny because last week I said the two things I was most worried about was Asafo and D-Mac both starting. Asafo for lineouts, he nailed those. D-Mac for just his gameplay, his ability to conduct. He likes to play so lateral. Could he control the game on the bigger stage from the start? That's exactly what he did. His goal kicking was massive too, and it appears that he's changed his run-up. He used to take so long, but in that Auckland game, if you remember, he expired the shot clock, and since then, it looks like he's really shortened and simplified things. He's now banging them over with about 15 to 20 seconds to spare on the shot clock. It looks like he's compressed it a little, and he's striking the ball brilliantly. His only miss hit the upright, so you love to see that from Damien. I thought Will the Thrill and Geordie Barrett were key under the high ball, in particular in receiving kickoffs. It's become a real 50-50 now. You see teams doing it. Joseph Suaalii was a great example of it on the weekend. They send up these athletic big fellas to try bat the ball back. Geordie and Will, they're bloody good at it, and I thought they were really strong. Will, of course, with that try, an absolute beauty. I thought Mark Talia and Caleb Clark were really good carrying wise as well. So often they look isolated on those shifts through our back line. They get one-on-one, and it looks like there's so much space between them and our next player to clean out the ruck, but they're so strong with ball in hand, both of them, that they can use their leg drive, their elusiveness, just to buy time and allow us not to turn over ball. I also love their work rate around the rucks as well. Their pick and go carries, both Mark and Caleb have started to implement a lot of them into their game. You could say Mark's been doing it for a while. Caleb, I reckon that's a bit new for me, and both of them are so strong and they break so many tackles that it's a really nice play to have. It also gives the forwards a break, and it paints a different picture for opposition defenses around the rucks where you can often pick out tiring forwards. Gets us gain line so easy, and I think both of these guys, the more they can get nut in hand, Gilbert and mitts, then I think the All Blacks game can only improve. It was sad to see Mark Talia injured now. He's really hit his straps over the last couple of weeks, but again, we'll touch on that shortly. I thought the Irish, jumping over to them, they just looked like a side that hadn't played since July, and as predicted, so much rust in their game. Every time they started to get a bit of a flow on attack-wise through their phase play, they'd just come up with a handling error at the worst possible time. A lot of them were basics too. Poor catch and pass, or just an attacking player looking up at the defensive line, taking his eyes off the ball and leading to an error there. Shout out to their replacement 10 as well, that ginger bloke, number 22, Frawley I think his name is. He had an absolute shocker. Bloke was a walking handling error, and much like the week before when the English took off Marcus Smith early, I reckon them taking off their starting 10 really did hurt them in this game. I mentioned before their penalty count 13-5. That is way too high. Some poor discipline there off the back of cheating like buggery at ruck time. I'm still not over that. And then defensively, I thought they struggled too. They allowed 9 line breaks to the All Blacks, whereas we only conceded 1. You can't dish up opportunities like that to a quality opposition like our lads. Final point on this game before we move on to the other matches and then the game this weekend. I just wanted to touch on Rico Ioane and his display, more so off the field, because I reckon this was outstanding. This is exactly what rugby needs. First of all, he leads the haka off the back of that Jonathan Sexton book scandal. That right there was the ultimate laying down of intention. First time he's ever led the haka, could well be the last. Of course, Cody Taylor was out for this game, but Ardie Savea has done it before. I reckon 100%, make no mistakes. This was a statement from the All Blacks that Rico is here, he means business, and that the boys well and truly have his back if you try and start any shit with him. Then post-game, the TV, it zoomed in on an exchange between him and Bundy Aki, and a lot of people were saying it's just a couple mates catching up because Rico did have a smile on his face throughout the conversation, but I'm not sure it was that friendly. I reckon Bundy had a few words for him. Rico walked off shaking his head, and then he post-game, put that in the book with a great little swipe across photo montage. The Joker photo was one of them. Reeks as the Joker holding up the 13 card. And then he had 1-4, the message playing in the background. That right there is a perfectly executed shots fired post on social media. The caption was cold. The photos were perfect. Him leading the haka into the Joker. And then the song, 1-4, the message. Geez, he just ticked every box there. That was great stuff. And for me, this gets bums on seats. It's got that NFL, NBA type of swag about it. It's great for getting eyeballs and attention on the game. And I reckon the ultimate testament to this was so many of my mates who normally wouldn't have watched the All Blacks as of late because they've kind of grown out of love with the game of rugby. They think league is well and truly on top. And for me, it is in terms of an entertainment spectacle. But the amount of people I had like that watching this game just to see how the Irish and the Rico interaction went, I reckon he's making rugby great again, and I love to see it. For so long, the rugby lads, they've been told to be humble, to be reserved. I like to see guys expressing themselves, and if this is who Rico is, which by all indications it is, he's a confident lad with plenty of swag, got that American athlete type of attitude about him, then I reckon this is well and truly play on. And I also think you have to factor in, I don't think this would have been possible under a Graham Henry or an Ian Foster. I reckon those coaches or New Zealand Rugby would have shut it down. I actually had a conversation with Piri Wepu about this the other day, where he said back in the day, their main form of social media was Twitter, and they were told on multiple occasions to delete tweets or what they could post. So shout out to New Zealand Rugby for not filtering this. I don't know if they really had a say. Reek seems like one of those operators where he'd just do it anyway. And also shout out to Razor for allowing the players to have a voice. We see now the content from the All Blacks has stepped up massively. We're getting behind the scenes access. We're getting to see the players' personalities. Adi Savia, Mark Talia, they have a bit of a rolling vlog as well. This is exactly what rugby needs. It's 6 more for me every day of the week. And now I can't wait for the All Blacks to take on Ireland again next time. Bums on seats galore. All credit to Rico Ioane. So shout out to you there, horse. Speaking of shout-outs, Aussie, they get the dub over the English. Back-to-back losses for them on the bounce at Twickenham. 42 points to 37. A last-minute miracle try to Max Jorgensen to seal the deal. But shit, did they have some great performances individually in what was a historic win for Aussie rugby, and perhaps the injection in the arse that they needed to flip the script and get back on track to make them one of our great rivals once again. Angus Bell, what an effort from him, the big fella, the prop. I think I saw he had 10 tackle breaks. He tore the English defence apart with ball in hand. I thought their loose forward trio of Rob Valentini, Mick Wright and Harry Wilson were great, and that is a well-balanced 6, 7, 8 right there that could continue to do some damage for many years to come. Then in the back line, I thought Lenny Ekatau, he was probably my man of the match. That bloke was unstoppable through that peach of an offload. Sonny Bill-like for that last try too. And then the guy who really put bums on seats, including mine, I got up for this game early hours just to watch it, purely to watch him play. Joseph Suaalii, and of course he's on the big bucks, but the fact that I woke up to watch it just shows that this was money well spent right there. His first game of rugby union since high school happens to be a test match in Twickenham, one of the most famous rugby venues, against one of their biggest rivals. He starts at centre. To turn out the performance he did and walk away with man of the match, whether that was 100% deserved or not, is truly insane. And there's no denying he's an elite athlete. He's tall, he's athletic, he's handsome. He looked every bit at home in the 13 jersey. He's great in the air. They were using him to knock back kicks. He's a real aerial threat. Got that NRL leaping ability. Got a great offload. He's so hard to stop one-on-one. Struggled at times defensively just with Kieran Reeds. But of course, more time in saddle and he will sort that out. He well and truly looked the goods. I think centre is his position. And the Wallabies, they've got themselves a young throbber there for many more years to come. I'm really keen to see how he develops because already the foundation is there for him to be a genuine superstar. It's exciting times ahead for Aussie rugby. They've got some great young talent coming through. I'm still not sold on Noah Loloseo for me at 10. I'd love to see them give Tane Edmed a crack just to unlock their attack even more. But I do think come next World Cup, and I believe it's in Australia, Schmidt will have the Aussie lads humming. So positive sides for the green and gold. This week taking on Wales, they need to win that just to keep this going and show that this result wasn't a flash in the pan. Shout out to Fiji, big win for them, 24-19, their first win in Cardiff. They hand Wales their 10th straight loss. Man, are they struggling. It's chaos for Gatlin's lads. They are all at sea at the moment, and it doesn't get any easier for them this weekend. Argentina, too strong for Italy. Pumped them, turned it on in the second half. And then I mentioned before, Tonga. Unfortunately, they still suck, going down 25-15 to Romania. That shouldn't be happening, and it continues to be incredibly worrying. It appears nations like Fiji and that are just getting stronger, while Tonga appear to be slipping by the wayside, which is bloody sad to see. But on to this week, another stacked lineup of international football. Fuck is November, Disneyland for rugby fans. This week, we get to tuck into the All Blacks France as well, 9:10 a.m. on your Sunday morning. I'm loving these 9 a.m. kickoffs. I'm going to be fucking dusty from the Surly Talk Sports Golf Day. I could potentially still be up and going, which is probably the preferred method because it means I'm not hungover, but you best believe I'll be strapped in for this one. Plenty of selection debates to come as well. Of course, All Blacks named 12:50 a.m. Friday morning, so tomorrow we will know when we wake up what Razor has decided to roll out with, but some injuries have struck the camp. Sam Cane, as I mentioned, out with an HIA. So Duplessis Karifi gets the nod. How good. I've been calling for this on this podcast for a while now. The bloke is a weapon. He deserves to wear the black jersey after captaining the Wellington Lions and the All Blacks 15 to glory. So I'm keen to see if he sneaks his way onto the bench. More on that shortly. Mark Talia, unfortunately, out with a hand injury. So Shea Fihaki, the luckiest bloke in the world, gets the call in again. The fact he was on the bench for the All Blacks 15 on the weekend, and then he gets the call up still, does shock me a little. Shooter Rob, even Naholo better than him in my humble opinion, but hey, that is what it is, and I think I've given up on flying that shooter for the All Blacks flag now, because it just appears the All Blacks coaches don't like him for some reason. AJ Lamb, he gets pulled in for the tradie Harry Plummer, who suffered a leg injury, so great signs for AJ there that he's well and truly in the mixer. And then Fabian Holland, he gets called in for Sam Derry, who's picked up an MCL injury to Holland. He's been massive for the All Blacks 15. The bloke is a gun, got a massive future ahead of him, so that is a great nod and a great experience for him too. In terms of your 15, 1 to 23, actually, your full squad for this weekend, I can't see too many changes in general. I do have a few, though, that I'll run you through now. In the starting pack, I reckon 1 to 5 remains the same, but the loose forward trio, for me, this is where it gets interesting. Is this the week we see Artie play his OG preferred position with Sam Cane out? Personally, I reckon they go Samapeni Finau at 6, Artie Savia at 7, Wallace Satiti at 8. The trio that finished the game last week, you get all three of them back in their best positions, in my opinion. It gives us size, athleticism, physicality, hissing skill set, unreal work rate, ticks every box. And I reckon the opposition team, the French, will be trembling in their boots at the sight of those three all packing down as a trio. In the backs, I reckon Roygaard gets the start, Cortez to the bench. He flipped them on their head. A few people saying maybe TJ for Cortez, but I don't reckon that's the way to go. I want to see Roygaard versus Dupont as well as your starting nines battle it out. For me, Dupont, he's the benchmark, but Roygaard has to be hot on his heels. And in a couple more years, with continued time and saddle and increased performances without injury too, I reckon Roygaard could be the guy to overtake him. So that would be a great one-on-one matchup that I can't wait to see. I reckon Bodie comes back into 10 after doing his time in the HIA protocol. And sorry, I didn't mention before, I reckon Cody Taylor gets the start at hooker, Asafo Amoa back to the bench, but I think that's a Craig Fitzgibbon. So Bodie at 10, D-Mac to the bench there. Then on the wings, with Mark Talia out, I'm not too sure they would do this, but personally, I'd love to see it. Geordie Barrett at 12, Anton Leonard-Brown at 13, move Rieko to the wing, Caleb Clark on the other, and keep Will the Thrill in the 15 jersey. I think there's a chance they could play Will at 14, D-Mac at 15, or even maybe Ruben Love on the wing, keep Will Jordan at the back. And I wouldn't mind seeing that option either, because I thought Love was great on the wing, off the bench, albeit against Japan, but I reckon he could well and truly tick boxes there and be a Ben Smith, Corey Jane-like versatile option. But personally, I'll be going Roigard at 9, Bodie at 10, Geordie and ALB in the midfield, Caleb Clark on the wing with Rico Ioane on the other, Will the Thrill at the back. Would love to hear your thoughts, so fire them through to me. Then on the bench, does Ethan de Groot finally come back? What did he do? And shit, I'd be keen to find out. And saying that, Jason Ryan has said he was available last week, but they just stuck with the team that got the job done against England, so I think they will stick with that again. Offa been playing well off the bench too, so it could just be tough bickies for the Ruda, who might get a trot next weekend against Italy. Then the other big talking point for me is who gets the bench Lucy spot between Peter Lakai and Duplessis Karifi. Dalton Papali'i and Ethan Blackadder are both not with the team at the moment, and Jason Ryan has said that they won't be flying over, so it's a straight shootout between those two. Personally, I reckon Lakai gets the nod just because he's been there in camp for the duration, but it's really a win-win, either of them. Both exceptional, and Duplessis certainly deserves a crack, so if that is the way they go, then that is exciting either way. I mentioned before, I reckon Cortez gets the bench 9 spot over TJ. Just a glimpse to the future, I reckon Cortez and Roigard are a 1-2 punch for sure. Does Love make his way onto the bench? If he doesn't start, you could go with Cortez, D-Mac, and Love as your bench options. That covers 9, 15, wing, and 10. No midfield cover there, though, so maybe Proctor gets a trot or even AJ Lamb, but that would be a bit of a bolter. So a couple potential changes there, tweaks to the 23. Mostly, I think it'll be pretty settled, but I am interested to see how it plays out because there is a bit of room for experimentation there. And saying that, though, France in Paris, you really want to nail it. The French, of course, have won their last 2 games against us. We won the 3 before that, though. They've had the better of us in recent history. We're on a 5-game winning streak, and I reckon that plays a massive factor into this. That right there, momentum is key. French pumped Japan, but Japan suck. So I really like our chances. I don't know why, but I'm just filled with confidence off the back of the performances recently of this team and the fact that we've got momentum. These northern sides, they've barely played footy. I reckon we get up here and in a major way. Up the ABs, it's sure to be a heck of a game against a big French pack and a Rasley French backline led around the park perfectly by arguably the best player in world rugby in DuPont, although Artie Savea probably has something to say about that. Other games this weekend, Netherlands versus Chile. Huge, but in all seriousness, there are some goodies. Ireland versus Argentina Saturday morning. I expect Ireland to be much improved after that hit out. England versus South Africa 6:40 a.m. Sunday. That's the entree for our game. Again, if I am kicking on from the golf, I'll watch that too. And then Wales versus Argentina Monday morning 5:10 a.m. I'll probably wake up for that one yet again just to watch Suali'i go about his work for back-to-back weeks. Then finally, before we move on from rugby, get into the weekly wrap. Rugby dominating the pod this week, courtesy of the NRL wrapping things up. But of course, the Super Rugby squads were announced during the week. Nothing groundbreaking in them. Good to see a few NPC standouts get gigs, though. That's what it's all about, laying the platform for them to take the step to the next level. The biggest changes for me, of course, Artie Savea at Moana. No Geordie or TJ either for the Canes, which leaves them looking a little different. I'm really hoping we get to see Love at 10, Godfrey at 15. That would be bloody exciting to watch for the Blues. Bodie Barrett's back, so now they have 3 All Black current 10s. Barrett, Plummer the tradie, and please add Feta, Stephen Petafeta. I do see Bryce Heem ruled out for the season though, so maybe the tradie plays a bit of 12, but with AJ Lamb in the All Blacks squad, you'd have to think he's the preferred option there, with Clark and Talia on the wings, Rico Ioane in the centres. That is a stacked backline. Great problems to have, but I'm interested to see how Vern Cotter balances out Barrett, Plummer, Perifeta, Chuck Zahn Sullivan in the mix there. That is a lot of 10-15 options. Geez, that's a luxury. The Chiefs, they look great again this year, a strong squad for back-to-back years. I'm keen to see how Leroy Carter goes, transitioning over from sevens into full-time rugby at a Super Rugby level as well. He looks to be a gun for the Landers. Cool to see Caleb Tangitau go down there for an opportunity, and he joins an exciting backline filled with lots of strike. Jacob Ratamadvuki, Nepkins, Tim Tavatava Nawai, Jonah Nariki, let's get freaky. You got Cam Miller and Gilbert from the famous Gilbert rugby ball manufacturing family. They look a little light in the locks, but hopefully they can continue off the back of this year where I thought they punched above their weight, making finals, beating the Crusaders too. Those were some good results for them. Speaking of the Crusaders, and I had a lot of people replying to me on Tuesday. Of course, I was sharing the lineups, the squads as they came out, wrote something about every squad that I liked. Didn't write anything for the Crusaders, and people were saying why. A few Crusaders fans a bit angry at me about it too, but I was taught by my mum, I was raised to say if you got nothing nice to say, then don't say nothing. So that was what that was all about. I doubt they'll be as bad as they were this year, but as a rugby fan that doesn't live in Christchurch, I think the whole of New Zealand would agree that it was refreshing to see them struggle. They were our shittest Super Rugby side this year, so hopefully that can continue. Because in 2026, Leicester Whainganuku and I reckon Richie Moanga will be back, and they'll be back to winning bloody everything. But I do hope for not many Rob Penny's sake, they are a bit more competitive this year. And to be fair, Super Rugby is at its best when the Crusaders Blues, Crusaders Landers, Crusaders versus anyone from New Zealand really. That rivalry is well and truly humming. So hey, it's not all doom and gloom for the red and black. Got a bloody good squad there, stacked with all black talent, and you'd have to think they'll be much better than they were this year. On to the weekly wrap. Breakers cop a heavy defeat just as I start to pump them up. Went from smoking the best team in the comp, Melbourne, by 34 points to losing to the last place Jack Jumpers by 19 points. We trailed by 4 at halftime. Q was far from in the rack, but then in the third quarter, we only scored 3 points compared to their 19, which has to be an NBL record for the lowest points scored in a quarter, and that saw us get blown out. We get a shot at redemption this weekend, Saturday night, 7:30, taking on the Taipans in Cairns. They're now coming last after we gave the Jack Jumpers a win, so surely we pumped those losers to get back into the winner's circle. And your NFL, KC, remain undefeated, but only just. Back-to-back weeks now where they've been pushed within a bee's dick of copping an L. They had that OT win against Tampa, and then this week they had a blocked field goal against Denver to get the dub. Last week I said it was them, Detroit, Ravens, Buffalo, and Niners for me as the real Super Bowl contenders, and I think last weekend really proved that. The Ravens bet the Bengals in a game that was all go. Joey Burrows and Jamar Chase did everything they could to get the Gals the win, but their defense sucks. They conceded a 21 points to 7 lead in the fourth quarter to lose 35 points to 34 as Lamar just turned it on. The bloke has to be the undisputed unanimous MVP again for back-to-back years. He is an absolute freak. If you've got him in your fantasy team, you're away and laughing. Well done to Detroit for getting the comeback win over the Texans as well in a great game. I've got my preseason futures multis looking good too. I have the Texans, Chiefs, Lions and Niners all to win their divisions, and that's looking solid. All in first at the moment except for the Niners, but I expect them to get there now that CMC is back and they're returning to full health, so fingers crossed that salutes. And then my big one, I have KC to win the AFC and Detroit to win the NFC. Both are leading at the moment, so hopefully that stays on track as well. Over to the NBA. Injuries really starting to hit hard now. Chet Holmgren for OKC, the latest to unfortunately miss an extended period. Fell hard on his hip against the Warriors. I think it was Andrew Wiggins making a layup, collided, and he hit the deck hard. He's all skin and bones, so as a result, he's out for 8 to 10 weeks. A real Daryl Tuffy for OKC fans. The Cavs, they're 11-0 at time of recording, and this is before Wednesday's NBA games, which is actually the start of the in-season tournament too, so keen to see how that plays out, but they're going unreal Interesting though, the East, it's really battling outside of the Cavs and the Celtics. You got the Pacers in third with a record of 5-5. They would be 12th in the West currently, which does make you wonder if the NBA potentially should look to revert to where it's the best teams overall, the best 10 teams with the best record that make the playoff regardless of what conference they are in, because currently the East, it looks to be dusty this year. The West is stacked and there's going to be some average teams that make it off the back of the Western Conference. Some good ones are going to miss out as a result too. So maybe it's time they go back to that playoff system where they merge it all just to make it fair, because the Pacers third with a 5-5 record. Like I said, they'll be 12 in the West. That's not play on for me. NBA Cup starts today, as I referenced before. For me, Lakers looking to defend their title. Keen to see how it plays out. Really enjoyed it last year. Embiid, he's back for the Sixers. Shit, do they need him? And it's crazy to see them and the Bucks down the bottom of the ladder in the East. There's still a lot of chat. The Bucks are going to move Giannis and potentially Dame as well. So where they land and how they could look post some trades would be bloody interesting. That Giannis to OKC trade continues to get talked about. I'm not sure if he's the perfect fit for OKC. They'd probably have to give up J-Dub as well, who I'm a huge fan of. So maybe they just hold. At the same time, though, I think if you've got the opportunity to get Giannis, you've got to seriously consider it. On to the EPL, Liverpool. You'll never walk alone, baby. We sit 5 points clear in first now after a 2-0 win over Aston Villa. More importantly, though, Man City, they went down 2-0 to Brighton. That's now their fourth loss in a row across the EPL and the Champions League. You love to see it. And personally, I can't see a world now where Liverpool don't win the Prem and the Champions League, do the double. The lads are going great. Momentum is a wonderful thing, and we're just going to continue to pump sides over the coming weeks. I think we've got Real Madrid fast approaching, so that will be a doozy of a clash in the Champions League. Over to the A-League, Phoenix with a good win on the road, 3-0 on the weekend too. AFC with the week off. The lads aren't back in action until next week, I believe. Pride round or Unite round, something like that. So they'll be looking to remain undefeated. They'll take on the 6th placed MacArthur in Sydney. What type of name is MacArthur for a football club? It sounds like someone's last name, so surely we get the dub over those losers and get back into the number 1 spot. The countdown continues till the 7th of December. New Zealand Derby, I'll be in the Port. Then it appears like the people have spoken and we're going to march to Danny Doolan's 12-odd Ks. Says it's going to take 2 hours, but when you're steamed up on the foils, I reckon we'll bang her out in an hour, and that will be a huge proud day in history, and hopefully that becomes a trend. Win at the Port, then march down to the Viaduct into Danny Doolan's. It's got something about it. Then on to your biffs for this weekend. Of course, 2 big fights in the combat sport world. UFC 309, headlined by that massive fight in the heavyweight division with John Jones defending his title up against 2-time champ in Stipe Miocic. Jones, his last fight, UFC 285 back in March 2023 when he choked out, I think it was Cyril Gane in the first round, and if that seems like a while out of the octagon, then Stipe, he hasn't fought in even longer, over 3 years, almost closer to 4. March 2021, when he lost his title to Francis Ngannou at UFC 260. So this is going to be a hell of a fight. I reckon John Jones gets the dub though, and interesting to hear him say he's not keen to fight Aspinall either. It doesn't appeal to him, and there's rumours floating around that Aspinall's next fight could actually be up against Potan, Alex Pereira, and he could look to move up to the heavyweight division, fight for the interim strap. Shit, would that be a good fight. I do want to see Jones versus Aspinall. I reckon that's the final tick in Jones's box needed. It appears he's semi-ducking him though. Not too sure what that's about. So if that fight doesn't happen, I want to see Potan, the most active man, the bloke who's carrying the UFC at the moment, step up to heavyweight. He's certainly got the frame for it, and that would be one hell of a fight. We've got Chandler Oliveira on the undercard of that fight too as well. But I see Jones getting the dub as well as Oliveira. That fight goes down Sunday 4 p.m. I believe the first of those 2 biffs is scheduled to start, so make sure you tune in for that one. And then Jake Paul versus Mike Tyson is the other combat, the other biff going down this weekend, 5 p.m. on Saturday. This is a big money fight. $80 million US it's believed to be worth, and a large majority of that, of course, comes off the back of this being shown on Netflix. I think it's the first time sport has been streamed live on Netflix, or a fight at least, and this could be a bit of a change of the guard for live sports. That's exciting stuff. Big money if Netflix get involved in that. But as bad as I want to see Tyson win this fight over Jake Paul, and I want to see Jake Paul get knocked out, to be completely honest, but I can't see this happening. When you look at Tyson's last fight back in 2020, it was an exhibition against Roy Jones Jr., but shit did he look awful. He's 57 years old now, and yes, he looks in good shape, but Jake Paul, 27, literally 30 years younger. Surely he gets the job done. And Paul, he's coming in off a TKO dub against Mike Perry last year. And give him credit where he deserves. I think he has looked decent in the ring over his last couple outings. I think he's going to be too young, too sharp for Tyson. If Tyson gets a hold of him with one big swing, he does have that knockout power, and I would be fizzing to see that. An option I do like at the TAB, though, which we'll touch on shortly, draw or technicality at $10. If Tyson is getting rolled, it could be a great marketing ploy for him to just bite Paul's ear, nibble on it. It'll be a good way for him to promote his cannabis gummies as well, which are shaped like Holyfield's half-eaten ear. The fight then gets called off. 10-1 odds on it to be stopped on a technicality. That is not the worst shout. And if you believe these fights are rigged that Jake Paul takes place in, then maybe that's the way they go. Rematch, bad blood. That 80 million becomes 160 million. You can almost see it playing out in front of your own eyes. But another stacked, huge weekend of sport. You got the Black Caps in the mixer too. Bums on seats, tune in. Something for everybody. How bloody good. Tea and biscuits time. Let's have a cheeky little Carmichael punt this weekend. And shit is it sad. No rugby league to have a punt on, which of course always tickles my fancy. It's my favourite sport to have a flutter with, but still plenty of other options. So instead, we search for lucrative markets where we can get green ticks on bet slips. All Blacks, of course, that is the big one that jumps straight off the page, and I'm loving this. $2 odds. Yes, please. I'll scoff that up every day of the week. France at home, so fair enough. $1.75 favourites. But anytime you can get the ABs at $2, I think you're stupid not to have a go on responsibly for sure. The line is 1.5 as well. Your best backed winning team in margin is France 1-12 at $2.40. All Blacks 1-12 at $3.10 is juicy shit as well. As I touched on before, France have won their last 2 games against us. We won the 3 before that though. So as an optimist, I like to think we're up 3-2 out of the last 5 games. And also, as I said before, I like momentum, of course. France, they pumped Japan last week, but Japan is shit. We dicked them a couple weeks back as well. We've won our last 5 games straight. We're hitting our straps now. Razor's reign is well and truly into its work. I think we've got that balanced 23 again. I think much like Ireland, France should have some rust in their game, and we're going to look to expose that as well. This is going to be a big step up in intensity for the French. Eddie Jones's lads are shit, and we are humming. And while they're a classy side, I just reckon we're on a roll now. Hopefully I haven't done the ultimate jinx right there, because I'm sounding like a confident All Black supporter again. But I'm going to jump on us there head-to-head at $2. I can see a world where we 13 plus them as well. So that winning team in margin scares me a little. I reckon you just play a straight up on the nose, head to head, All Blacks, $2. I like us on an alternative line of minus 0.5, so literally just to win by a point or more at $2.15 for that 15 more cents in value, which can make a big difference on your multi. And then if you want to go a little Ivan Leary, you like me, and you think that we should win by at least a converted try, All Blacks minus 7.5, that try bet option. Usually I go either team within 7.5. This week I'm thinking All Blacks by more than 7.5. $3.30. That's some pretty good buying. In terms of your other international footy as well, a cheeky little multi for you here. I like Ireland to beat Argentina. Should be way too strong. South Africa to beat England. I expect South Africa to roll out the Rolls Royce this week after resting a couple of rigs last week, and they'll be too good at Twickenham. England, their 3rd straight loss on the trot to start this little November window for them. That would be bloody nice to see. All Blacks to beat France. Just rattled on about that in in a bloody confident way. And then Aussie to beat Wales, Schmidt to pile on the hurt for Gatland, 11 straight test losses. I wouldn't mind seeing it, actually. I don't mind this little Aussie revival. $4.69, a nice number there for that multi. I reckon she's a bloody good shot. Get up the mighty Southern Hemisphere. Onto your NBA, today's games. Pacers, I reckon they beat the Magic. No Paolo for the Magic, so tough scenes. Pacers, Halliburton starting to hit his straps now. Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, that's the triple threat. Too many options. They get the job done. Cavs, I back them to beat the 76ers. Does Embiid play a back-to-back? He said at the start he wouldn't. He's had about 11 games off though. Can he lace up for 2 days in a row? That would be a factor, but still I think the Cavs will be too strong. Thunder to beat the Pelicans, who have basically no one at the moment. Feel sorry for them. I was cracking up actually. I think it was Tuesday's game for the Thunder. SGA was the tallest player in their lineup at 6'6". Had a career best night too, 45 points. They're playing small ball with Chet out, and it appears to be working for them. I think the Celtics beat the Nets. The T-Wolves smoke the Blazers. And a game I'm not betting on, but I'm bloody keen to see as well. Lakers versus the Grizzlies. Last week when they played each other, Ja and LeBron, they had a bit of a back and forth. LeBron hit Ja with the too small. Then Ja came back, pick up the technical for the old shoulder charge into the back of the old boy. That was completely unnecessary. So maybe there's a bit of beef and tension there. Hopefully we get a second edition of that. Back LA at home this time to get the win. I reckon they'll be paying some pretty juicy odds too. Odds not out at time of recording, but keep an eye on that one for your NFL options. Plenty of big games this weekend as we continue to ramp up and march towards the old Super Bowl early doors in February. I like Philly to beat the Commanders tomorrow. Saquon Barkley and Hurts as a nice little same game multi there. 3+ legs, misses by 1. You'll get your money back in bonus cash up to $50. So that's Philly into Saquon and Hurts. Love the Commanders, but I'm just not sure they've still got it in their arsenal to pull off the dub there. Monday, I like the Rams to beat the Pats in a tight one. I like the Ravens to beat the Steelers in that rivalry game. Get on Derrick Henry there anytime. I like Miami to beat the Raiders with Tyreek the Freak as an anytime option. Lions to smoke the Jags, same game for you here. St. Brown and Montgomery, both anytime for a little same game multi. I like the Vikings to beat the Titans, Packers to beat the Bears, and Niners to beat the Seahawks. McCaffrey will score this week as well. Second week back in the saddle, bit of rust blown off the chassis, and he will salute. Can multi out of those or drop a few legs to make it safer too. That was a 6-legger right there. So under that US Sports promo, if that misses by 2, you'll get your money back as bonus cash. So again, get on the Rams, Ravens, Miami, Lions, Vikings, Packers, Niners, all to win. Drop a couple of those at your own will. Then also throwing in a cheeky little tight end multi. I mentioned before, no NRL. We're searching for value, so I'm going to go on some big boppers here. Andrews for the Ravens, George Kittle, I'll boil the kettle for the Niners, and then Travis Kelce for KC, Taylor Swift's mate. Get up the big boppers in your boxing. I think Jake Paul proves too good at $1.50, as boring as that is. Like mentioned before, I'd like to see the fairy tale for Tyson. Gonna have a cheeky little 5 or 10 on that technicality at $10 too, but I do think Jake the Snake gets the chockies there. And then I also think John Jones in your UFC, too strong. Get on him for a knockout. I reckon he finishes that one in the first or second round and gets his hand raised, defends the strap. My bet of the week this week, I'm 24 from 32 on these. Another win last week. Matama Tonga plus 18.5. That line, that was a gimme at $1.90. Easy coin right there. This week, All Blacks head to head, $2. It's patriotic, so get around it. Would love to go 25 from 33. That's some impressive stats right there as we look to finish off the year strong with your punting. Come December, she's going to be fine margins. Not a lot to get on. We're going to have to go deep into the well once your rugby finishes too. So enjoy these bets while you can. Get up razors, lads, and up yours to those French snail-eating baskets. Q&A before we call her a day and send you on your way, of course. Chucked up the question box on my story. Ended up deleting it after a couple of hours prior to recording this because they were flooding in. And I hate when people send them through after I've just recorded. I feel bloody bad, and I always forget to chuck them in the week after. So if you didn't see the question box, just know it was up for a couple of hours. And if you got something you want to get off your chest, you want to ask your old mate Surly, then jump on about 9 a.m. each Wednesday, and normally I'll be chucking her up. Then first question comes through from NZ Warriors Faithful, who says, thoughts on the end of NZ Warriors Faithful after the 2025 season. I did see this post, thought it was incredibly well articulated, to be fair. Didn't expect that from you there, lad, but that was well played. And look, it's one of the great retirement speeches, to be fair. You think you're Tom Brady's, your Sean Johnson's in recent time, but to be fair, I reckon this has a bit of SJ about it. I can imagine 2025 goes swimmingly well and you decide to extend things on to 2026, so I'll believe it when I see it personally. It's been a great innings at the crease for you, lad, and let's see where things go. Would love to see you be a bit more positive about the club, to be fair, but hey, that's just me. It's your page, so it is what it is. Next one comes through from Caleb Adam 195, who says 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end, 1 quarterback, and 1 running back, picking from only current All Blacks. Shit, that's a great question. Of course, NFL-related question there for all of those that don't follow the game very much. In terms of your 3 wide receivers, I have to think I would go with Will Jordan as one. Obviously tall, quick as fuck, great hands, would make for a great receiving target. Then I'll go Mark Talia, elusive, slippery as fuck, bloody hard to tackle, he's quick too. And then my third would probably be Rico Ioane, fastest man in the All Blacks, if you believe all the rumours. He'd be lightning, great hands, great feet as well, and bloody strong. So I reckon those 3, Will Jordan, Mark Talia, and Rico Ioane would be an elite receiving trio. Then in terms of my quarterback, and this might surprise a few people, but if you haven't seen Caleb Clark toss a pigskin or even a Gilbert before, shit does he have an arm on him. He's clearly an NFL enthusiast, and quite often during games, post-games, you see him just tossing the pigskin, training as well. His hand is so big he can just palm a Gilbert, and he's got a cannon of an arm on him. So I'd have to think I'd chuck him at quarterback. He'd be a great running threat as well. Lamar Jackson, he'd be fucking hard to stop on those QB runs, that's for sure. 1 running back. I think Caleb Clark would have been a great shout for that position too, because he's quick, strong, powerful. I reckon a Safo Armour would be an absolute wrecking ball, though. Incredibly hard to tackle one-on-one, and I'd like to chuck Tim Tavatavanawai in there as a non-All Black, who I'd like to see. Kini Holo as well, just because of how low-built centre of gravity and how powerful those guys are. But current All Blacks, I'll go with Asafo there. Then for your tight ends, and this is where it gets really tough, you could probably throw Ardie Savea in the running back conversation too, because pound for pound, he's one of the strongest blokes going around. In fact, he would probably actually be my running back. Late change there, I'm going with Ardie Savea. Then for your tight ends, there's 2 which stand out here on different ends of the scale. The first one is Jordie Barrett, tall, big body, quick, good hands, not afraid of the physical stuff either, so when it comes to blocking, he'd be great. And then on attack, he's almost like a Travis Kelce 2.0 in terms of his speed, athleticism, and size. Then you could also go with Wallace Atiti, who I reckon would be a great tight end. Loves the physicality, fit as fuck, great in open space. He's got a good turn of pace as well. Bigger body than Jordie Barrett, a bit solid, thicker to build. So I reckon either of those would be a great shout. So to answer your question, 3 wide receivers, Will Jordan, Mark Talia, Rico Ioane, 1 tight end, probably Jordie Barrett or Wallace Atiti as a backup option. My QB would be Caleb Clark, just based off what I've seen on the eyeballs, dual throwing and running threat. And then my running back, Ardie Savea, but I'll be keeping Asafo Armour warm just in case he went down. He'd be my RB number 2, that's for sure. Next question, Riley Hamilton says, most unlucky person to miss out on a Super Rugby gig. There's a few names which pop to mind, but the biggest one for me, I reckon Willis Halahola was incredibly hard done by, was outstanding for Bay of Plenty in the midfield, formed a nice combination with Amoni Narawa as well, and I thought the Chiefs, certainly the Landers, wouldn't look out of place adding him to their midfield stocks. I get that he's 34 years old, but of course he's played for Wales, he's played international, looked really good in the NPC this year. I still reckon he's got plenty of footy ahead of him, so I was a little surprised he didn't pick up a gig, because for me, he was one of the standout midfielders and backs in this competition. competition. So tough scenes for him there. A few others jump out. That young Canterbury first five, I was a little shocked not to see him in the mixer. You'd have to assume he'd be training with the Crusaders. I thought Tristan Cook for Harbour, good young up-and-coming talent. Good to see Cam Christie in the Blues system. I think TC will be training with the Blues for sure. And that Southland Stags number 8, his name escapes me. There's chat that he's got a training deal with Moana Pacifica. But man, I thought he was one of the best forwards in the comp, so I reckon he deserves a full-time contract for sure. So those are probably the ones which jump out to me straight away. Next question from Nick Nathan, who says, thoughts on United's new coach? Yeah, nice little pickup for them, it appears. Ruben Amorim. Don't know too much about him, if I'm going to be 100% honest. He's come across from Sporting. He gets about 13 days now, right, till United's first game, 12 or 13 days. So he'll have a bit of time there to implement a couple of changes, and I'm really keen to see how it all plays out. Surely results are going to be more positive than what they've been dishing up as of late, though. So hopefully, for your sake, there's bright times on the way for United, for my sake, and the feelings of many others who just hate United. Then let's hope much of the same continues. Running for Sal says, pick a league team from current and ex-All Blacks. Love these questions. Love doing the old hypothetical rugby union to rugby league. I know it's a fan favourite. People love doing it as well. You always see these type of posts up on Instagram and Facebook for sure. I'll do one different. I'll just basically go players in New Zealand at the moment, and then we'll go from there, because I think ex-All Blacks as well. It would take me a couple of hours to hash it out. You'd have to have Christian Cullen, John Olomu, Jerry Collins and co in there. That would be a bit of an exercise. But off the top of me dome, I'll bang one out from New Zealand players. At the back, I'd have Damian McKenzie in the one. He would remind me of a Ryan Papenhuyzen, Reece Walsh, Keanu Kenny type of footballer. Fast, quick off the mark, explosive, good ball playing, got a kicking game on him as well if needed. Safe under the high ball. I reckon he'd fit the fullback role perfectly. On the wings, ready to truck nut, get through some yardage sets, but also both elite one-on-one finishes, genuine rugby league handfuls. I'll go with the Rabbitohs supporter and Caleb Clark, and then I'll go with the slipperiest man in rugby union, the baby-oiled assassin, Mark Talia. In the centres, Geordie Barrett, Rico Ioane. Both of them elite on both attack and defence. Rico's speed, he would be so deadly one-on-one. A real handful. And then you got Geordie, great kick talent, also elite skill set. Big boot on him too if you need that other kicking option as well. I reckon he'd be unreal at rugby league. He's done a bit of training with the Melbourne Storm as well, so you never know. That could be on the cards for Geordie in the future. In the halves, biased, I'm going with Shooter at 6. And then I'm ringing up Richie Mo'unga. That's my cheat code. I'm going with him at 7 if that's allowed. I did say players in New Zealand at the moment, but I meant more modern day era and in and around the New Zealand scene. I'm going to make an exception for Rizza Mo'izza. I'll go Shooter at 6. Massive boot. Big body. Ball running 6. And I think his playmaking ability is underrated as well. We really see it for Harbour, where he comes to the fray and makes a lot of shit happen for them as that second set of hands. He does it for the Chiefs as well, linking well with D-Mac, and I reckon their combination in the spine would be really nice. I reckon Shooter would be a great 6. Bigger body as well. I'd love to see that happen. I reckon he's got a bigger boot than Matt Burton, which is pretty controversial, but I reckon he has the potential to have the biggest kicking game in the NRL if given a shot. And the 7-eyed Richie Mo'unga, just because he's Richie Mo'unga. The bloke can do everything. And again, another player who's expressed interest in the past about rugby league, was involved in New South Wales camp this year, and the boys happen to win the series. No coincidence there. Would love to see that. If we're playing a straight bat, then you could chuck Bodie at 7, and that is what it is. He'd do a great job as well. My props, I'm going with Big Hoskins Satutu, who will just carry all day, power game, offloads, physical, tough to tackle one-on-one, attract multiple bodies, PCMs of doom, and then for the same exact reason, Asafo Amoa. Those would be my 2 starting props. Imagine Asafo backfencing it. Fuck, he would be a handful. At hooker, Cam Roygaard, big body, fast, good service, strong running game. Reminds me a bit of like a Harry Grant type of player, that mould. He'd be unreal darting off the back of quick rucks too. Got a good boot. His kicking options out of 9 would be crazy. And the second rowers, I've gone with Wallace Atiti and Duplessis Karifi. Both of them, I think, have potential to be top 10 second rowers in the NRL one day. In particular, Wallace. Still so young, could easily make that transition again. There was chat around NRL clubs circling around him after his rugby championship form this year. I'd love to see him play there for New Zealand rugby's sake, though. I hope he doesn't make the transition. But ball playing, line running, footwork, skill set, can hit hard. He'd be a mad second rower for the exact same reasons. Duplessis Kirifi as well. I reckon he'd be great in the 13. I've got Adi Savia. Ball skills, so he can play out the back, be that link man. He'll run all day long, take tough carries, PCMs, will get through a shit ton of work defensively as well. He would be crazy at rugby league. Then off the bench, I've got Bodie Barrett in 14 as that type of utility role. But if I had to flip that, then I would probably put Ruben Love there, who I actually have in 17 at the moment. But again, if you want to pull me on that technicality, I'll just play it how I've got here. Though I've got Bodie in my head at 14. 15, Samapeni Finau, huge rib rattler. Good luck stopping that. 16, out the box. I'm going Tim Tavatavanawai. He could play in the forwards for sure, and then he could also cover in the back for any injuries too. That bloke is a walking bump off. Impossible to tackle, hits hard too. I reckon he'd be unreal for 20 or 30 minutes off the bench, just to truck nut, can make something happen from nothing. I'd just chuck him in the middle and see what happens. And then in 17, I had Ruben Love, just because I'm trying to think of ways to fit him in. You probably wouldn't carry Bodie and Love on the bench, although Rubes is probably big enough where he could give you some 13 minutes as well. So just chucking it 1 to 17, that's what I've got. Thinking of other guys, Rico Ioane, if he was still in New Zealand, would have chucked him in. Shannon Frizzell, another one who's a good candidate. I think Cody Taylor would go pretty decent. There's all sorts of names that I would really like to include in there. But that's me, 1 to 17, pretty much off the top of the dome. Keen to hear your guys' sides though, and no doubt there'll be some players that I missed off, so fire those through as well. Your next question, Josh Andrews, thoughts on Duplessis Kirifi making the All Blacks? Well earned, I think. Absolutely well earned. He's been sniffing around for a while now. Massive season this year. I hope he gets the opportunity. If not this week, then next week up against Italy, where I think it's more likely. He deserves it. And I reckon, once again, you just get a full-on balls-to-the-wall performance from him. I'm a massive fan, so fingers crossed he gets the nod from Razor in the weeks to come. Next one, this is a Daryl Tuffy from One Sweewee. That is a great name. And it says, bro, I think France might beat us this week after putting all our energy into Ireland. How do you stop that? And also a cracker, New Zealand's singular, most iconic sporting moment of all time, in your opinion. First part, you think France might beat us after all that energy we put into Ireland. That's a fair counter-argument to my point around momentum and whatnot. There's no doubt playing Ireland at the moment for the ABs means a shit ton more than playing a lot of other nations, and there would have been a big emotional outpouring into that game. At the same time, though, I reckon the lads are so fired up to try go the clean sweep on this Northern Tour, and if they bang it out this week, they will do just that, which rights the wrongs of earlier in the year and makes this year a success in my opinion. So I don't think the lads will be short of motivation up against the French side who's had the wood on us in the last couple years. Razor will want to kick off his reign with a famous scalp up against them in Paris. The second part, New Zealand's singular most iconic sporting moment of all time. Fuck, that is tough. Man, we've had some great ones at the Olympics, including our first gold. What else have we had? Michael Campbell winning the US Open was pretty crazy. Even recently, the Black Caps pulling off the sweep against India, but that's pretty recency bias in terms of most iconic ever. For me, of course, being a rugby and rugby league fan, iconic scenes. The 2008 Rugby League World Cup win has to be up there, but I think my number one for sure is the All Blacks righting the wrongs, breaking the 24-year World Cup drought and getting the win at home up against the French in that 2011 World Cup final. Just the one meaty. Tony Woodcock dots down. Then you got Beaver, old mate, white baiting, bangs over the kick that only just went over. True bee's dick stuff. It almost had the ultimate fairy tale, right, where Dan Carter, Colin Slade, I think Aaron Cruden was swept out. We had Piti Wepu, who had unfortunately already missed a couple nudges. Cometh the hour, cometh the man. Beaver steps in and delivers the chockies. Puku's too big for his jersey. That is probably the one for me, the most iconic New Zealand single sporting moment. A, it snapped a huge drought. B, it was on home soil. And then C, the fashion that it got done. They literally made a book and a fucking movie about it. That's how you know it's iconic. No doubt I've missed a fair few off there though. So again, keen to hear your guys' ones. And then finally, Rocky Pohatu says, is the NRL now more popular than Super Rugby? Should I think? Absolutely. I think the NRL absolutely kills Super Rugby. For me, the questions are, is the NRL now more popular than the All Blacks in New Zealand? I still think the All Blacks are the OGs, in particular with that age group, that 50-plus type of region. My old man, he would never watch a game of rugby league, but he loves the All Blacks. Watches the Wars every so often, purely because of the fact that I'm such a big fan. But he's all out rugby union, and so many of his mates, that is still their go-to talking points at the pub. So I think in particular in that older demographic, rugby's still got it. But the young bucks coming through, the NRL is definitely getting more bums on seats, in my opinion. Sticking to rugby, though, the bigger question for me, is the NPC now more popular than Super Rugby? Personally, I think it's got to be close, right? Super Rugby will always get bigger viewership numbers and things like that because you got the All Blacks in the mix. But if you chuck the All Blacks into the NPC as well, I reckon that would outdo it, because I'm still of this opinion that people and players are more passionate about their provinces than they are about their Super Rugby team. So I'll throw that question back on you there, Rocky. It's the NPC closing the gap on Super Rugby, because personally I think League clears it by a mile, and League's more comparative to your All Blacks, in my humble opinion. So some great questions there. Appreciate all of you for firing them through. We'll go again next week. 6 more. Right, that's us for another episode of Surly. Cheers for your ears. Really appreciate you. Catch you back here, same time, same place, next Thursday. We'll do a big golf day debrief. It might be time. I'll see what my old mate Shooter is up to as well. Maybe get him in for a yarn. If not next week, then the week after as well. A bit of a recap of the year and footy in general. So stay tuned for that. Shout out to the TAB. Cheers to Better Bear as well. And I'll catch you back here next Thursday. Go well. Have a great weekend. If you're playing golf with me on Saturday, we are fucking on. She's going to be one of the greats. So see you at Waitemata. If not, if you missed out, I'll be kicking on. I'll keep you posted, probably in Doolins. See you there too. Up the mighty ABs. Big Fizz.